Hey guys, it's Pineapple, and in this video we're going to draw the lines of combat. We've seen the heroes gathering in their various teams, as well as the villains gathering in theirs, and with the heroes mobilizing, it's time for these groups to collide. Let's break down what each unit and team is, who its members are, and what their purposes might be. I want this video to be sort of a one-stop shop for information on who's where and what might be going on in the shadows, so let's get to it. But first, I want to remind you guys that you can follow me on Twitter at VocalPineapple for all sorts of MHA related tweets and just some fun stuff in general, and you can also like the video for more, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload. I'm working on getting channel memberships up next month with emojis and badges and all sorts of stuff, so look out for that. But for now, let's talk about these war units after that intro. Hit it! So why are the heroes and villains going to war? Well, Hawks is pretty much the one who set all this up, but I guess it was sort of inevitable in a way. When Shigaraki wakes up from his 4-month transformation period, his plan was to destroy the heroes and everything in one fell swoop. Shigaraki and the Liberation Front want to annihilate all of the heroes, and they plan to do it by completely destabilizing society. After the attack on Deika, Japan, society is desperate for the heroes to take a stand and secure their safety. They even allowed the heroes to start running the dangerous internship programs with students again, and Midnight explains why the situation is so desperate for everyone. If the heroes take massive losses against Shigaraki, or he uses waves of Liberation Front members acting as villains to attack towns and kill heroes, the public might finally be pushed too far. The Liberation Front would begin attacking cities with more targeted and brutal attacks, destroying buildings, population centers, and more. Once people are desperate for someone to look to save them from the lawless chaos in the streets, Destro and Trumpet with his political party will give people weapons, food, and any aid they need to defend themselves and restabilize society. They'll indoctrinate everyone into the Liberation Army's ideology, and this would be the final step in making the population unwitting members of the Liberation Front. Destro would double down on the fact that the heroes weren't able to save the population, and the population was able to take care of themselves, so then when the heroes try to take back society from the villains, Destro and Shigaraki can say that the heroes are just trying to take back their power and return things to how they were. Return things to the old, broken way. And you can see how the likelihood of societal collapse all really depends on what happens in these battles here. So let's get to talking about the people that'll be conducting those battles. First off, we've got the heroes. There are 4 teams of heroes that are here as part of the operation to take down Ujiko and the villains in one day. For starters, we have the evacuation team that consists of Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and some other UA students like Ochako and 1B students, and several pro heroes. Deku's team is led by Burnin, Endeavor's sidekick, and their job is to move in to get everyone out of the town and out of the immediate area of the battle in the town around the hospital. Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki all recently got a crash course in rescue operations from Endeavor, so them being here makes sense, and I've got a theory coming on Valentine's Day about why I think Ochako being here makes a lot of sense too, beyond the fact that she's an excellent evacuation hero. Next up, we have the second hero team consisting of Fatgum, Gang Orca, Miss Joke, some UA teachers, a few 1A students like Kaminari and Tokoyami, and a large number of pro heroes. This team is outside the Paranormal Liberation Front's mansion, which we know is actually the League's home base. We're told that all of the leaders of the Liberation Front are having a meeting inside of the mansion. We're also led to believe that this makes it the perfect time for the heroes to raid the headquarters, since they could arrest and take down all of the most important members and lieutenants at once. Now, on the front page of the most recent chapter 260, we see Hawks' face next to the Liberation Front's mansion, so this tips us off that he is probably the leader of this operation, or at least this team, which makes sense considering the fact that Hawks has the most direct knowledge of this place specifically and its insides and outs, as well as where the heroes would need to go. The problem with this is Hawks is obviously being watched always, and he's probably inside the mansion getting ready for this meeting between all of the leaders. There's hints that he's going to try to stick near twice, so could Hawks' goal be to take down twice, killing him and taking down one of the most dangerous forces that the villains have at their disposal? Either way, this team is trying to take down the leaders of the PLF like Destro, the generals, and anyone else that they can find inside, but this is going to be extremely dangerous. Thankfully, the third hero team is the backup hero team for these heroes at the Liberation Front's Gunga Mansion Villa. I like how, like every other location in the series, this is another reference to a location in Star Wars, with this one being Jar Jar's hidden home under the swamp on planet Naboo. Shout out to Kayla Cook. That being a reference for the name of this place tells us that under the mansion is probably an expansive city or network where the Liberation Front resides. So hopefully the heroes are ready for a massive enemy force. This third team is a bit deeper in the forest, and they're there to come in and save the second team if there's any trouble that they can't handle on their own. I'm sure they're also there to make sure that nobody escapes, so this team is going to be a crucial one once villains start spilling out. This team features a large number of 1A and 1B students like Momo, Kirishima, Tetsu, and more. It's not clear if they have a pro hero that's in charge of their movements, but Momo is there standing pretty close to the front, so that makes me wonder if they actually let Momo be in charge of this reserve team of only students, since she is 1A's class president. Maybe she shares the responsibility with Class B's class president though, but who knows. The final and fourth hero team is the Hospital Raid team. The hospital is the home of Ujiko's lab and of course, the doctor himself. This is where the High and Nomo are all housed, as well as all of the doctor's research. He says he doesn't want to give the hospital up, but he was absolutely willing to by trying to teleport him and Shigaraki, who's also there, away with John-chan. Since he can't do that anymore, I imagine he's gonna let the high-ends loose just to try to escape with Shigaraki in the chaos. So the members of this hero team have to be ready for a battle. Thankfully, this team is led by the fiery number 1 hero, Endeavor. There are also a number of the top 10 heroes, I count 5, and other well-known and powerful pro heroes and UA teachers like Aizawa, 13, the Pussycats, and many more. I bet all of the top 10 heroes are included in this operation, so we need to see where Yoroi Mushin and the others are, but I bet you can't expect that the strongest of the strongest are gonna be here with Endeavor, because the threat of the High and Nomu has to be horrifying, especially after seeing what just one did to both Hawks and Endeavor. So those are the hero teams, but what do the villains have on their side? Well, first off, there's the Vanguard Support Regiment, Team Brown. This team is led by Spinner and Compress, and it's important to note that every Liberation Front leader has 3 of their own assistants or advisors. The members that we see working with Spinner and Compress vary from a guy that looks like he could be Kaminari's father with a lightning bolt in his hair to a happy-go-lucky looking guy who I'm sure is one of the most dangerous in the bunch. I think that the support division is going to be all about supporting the other divisions in various ways, like by providing transportation, healing, and strategic distractions, and platoons of technical quirk users to jump into any fight and shift the tide of that battle. Spinner being in charge of the team that handles driving and transportation definitely fits his vibe and his appearances in the series thus far, and Compress leading a bunch of villains who have quirks that let the bad guys move technology, or even quirks that can just sense incoming danger, is fine to me as long as it means that he gets a big moment. The second team is the Vanguard Action Intelligence Regiment. This unit is led by Toga and Skeptic, the Liberation Front member who is all about surveillance and manipulation. You can see why he'd be teamed up with Toga, and this unit's purpose is definitely clearer than the last one. With Toga and her ability to change into anyone, and Skeptic's ability to monitor anyone, and even the smart stack into any sort of database and acquire any information that one would need to start a successful espionage operation, you could see how the Intelligence Regiment, represented by the color Carmine, is an insanely dangerous one. The heroes have the upper hand at the moment, however, I'd imagine that this team is going to begin bleeding in with the heroes and committing all sorts of betrayals and sneak attacks across the battlefield. Horikoshi is a massive fan of Marvel Comics, like we've taken note of on this channel before quite a bit, and I think having a team dedicated to causing instability and distrust within the heroes' teams would be a good parallel to Marvel's Secret Invasion, where various heroes were revealed to be Skrulls, and a battle took place between them and the heroes, with the heroes not knowing who they could trust. This definitely sounds like the kind of team that you'd put Toga in charge of, and also the kind of team that a smart strategist would think to create in order to trip the heroes up and break up their unity. The advisors and squad leaders in this unit range from a pair of 20-something looking young adults that look like they could be brother and sister, to an R2-D2 villain, to even a grotesque frog human. I bet Toga chose the twins just because they're beautiful, and I think the male in the pair with the poofy hair might be friends of Hawks, who I theorize is also in Toga's division. I only think this because there was a quick scene where that guy stops the guy who trails Hawks from trailing him, as Hawks was going to teach twice about the Liberation Front's ideals, but let's see if that means anything at all. I'm just crazy. The third villain unit is the Vanguard Action Guerrilla Warfare Regiment, and this one is at least visibly the most dangerous unit, but that's for a good reason. This team is led by the troublesome duo of Dabi and Getten, the Liberation Front's fire and ice users, and it's represented by the color violet. These two had a big fight during the My Villain Academia arc, but together it's sort of like there's a superpowered Shoto leading a division of psychopaths. The division advisors range from a guy with insane eyes and a crown on his hat, to Agent 47, to a dude that looks like some sort of shark fox Pokemon in a suit. It's really weird. It really is the Chaos Crew, and thanks to their name, we know that these guys are going to be scattered everywhere, ready for action. After all, guerrilla warfare itself is the act of using small teams and units to attack the enemy in various ways over a longer period of time to destroy the foundations of their defenses and even their will to continue on. This is done through random ambushes and various other things that are meant to wear you down. Maybe one team would go and spoil the water system for the entire city, while the other creates a fake crisis for the heroes to respond to, only for another group to come in and ambush those heroes, or have the fake victims of that crime ambush the heroes as well, killing them. I can see Dabi's team planning a bunch of attacks and ambushes on the groups of heroes and the homes of their families, and knowing the Doctor has a preference for him being the one who controls and tests the Nomu, and the fact that Endeavor is at the hospital, I think that Dabi and a force of his team are actually near the hospital, ready to protect it and make use of the high-ends. If I was the leader of the Liberation Front, I'd actually make a move that a lot of the fandom has been asking for a long time, and that is raid the prison. With all of the heroes in Kyoto and the area nearby, that doesn't leave too many people to defend Tartarus Prison, home of Japan's most deadly and dangerous criminals. There are a lot of villains we've met in the series hidden in this prison, like Muscular, Chisaki, All for One, Stain, and Kurogiri, but invading this place and setting more people loose would introduce us to a whole new set of villains and dangerous people, while also giving older characters the opportunity to make their way back into the story, like of course Stain and Chisaki. I'd have Getten and a massive force of Liberation Army members pull up on the prison, which is at the end of a long bridge out in the middle of the ocean near town. I'd have a wave of villains block the bridge and even destroy it, and then I'd have Getten use his ability to control cold and ice to create a massive wave of ice out of the ocean and pierce through and surround the prison, tearing it open and also giving Getten enough ice to control the area and block off any heroes from coming in. When it's time to escape, the villains can depend on Kurogiri to open a portal and get them all out of there, but if he's indisposed, Getten could also create a bridge of ice that the heroes can't follow on because again, over water, Getten is pretty much completely in control of what's happening. And honestly, that makes him the perfect person to carry out the assault on Tartarus. Finally, the fourth team is the Vanguard Action Tactics Division, and this team is the only team led by a single person, and that is Twice. I guess when you consider his quirk double, Twice is his own co-leader, but that doesn't keep him from having 3 advisors that range from the Liberation Army's oldest supporter Sanctum, a skeleton in an old pilot's uniform, and an innocent looking grandma who looks like she honestly bakes her cookies with blood. This team being the tactics team makes me think that this will be the team in charge of leading all the other teams to a certain extent at least. No matter what, Twice's team has the most members technically because it has Twice in it, and that's pretty much an infinite amount of members. But the tactics team is probably filled with Twice clones of what the League sees as its most useful quirk users, enhancing the power of every single unit. I personally think this unit is going to be one of the hardest ones to defeat because Twice loves to clone people and trick you into thinking that you caught the real one, and I think he'd definitely do that with anyone important in his group, which could lead to a number of battles that end in frustration on the hero side and wasted energy. If everything goes wrong, at the very least, I think Twice's team could flood the streets of Japan to give anyone that needs to get away an important way to escape, and even take out the heroes as a last-ditch effort by cloning a bunch of high-end Nomu and waves of Twice clones to destroy everything. This is what makes Twice the most dangerous person here, because if things go wrong and he decides to, he can just win this for the villains. That's why I think Hawks really might kill Twice, and as sad as that would be, it would definitely be one of those power plays that the heroes could really need since the scales are against them so badly. So these are the teams between the heroes and the villains. We know Fatcom's team is at the Liberation Front mansion, and the heroes at least believe that all of the leaders of these villain units are inside of the mansion as well, preparing for a meeting. But this could not be true as well. I say this because it's very highly unlikely that none of these 4 teams are going to be at the hospital to battle those heroes, and I do think that each hero team will have to come across a villain team, so that sort of dictates that the villains be or at least have the access to be, in or around the various locations that the heroes are stationed. We could see Facum's main team coming against the members of Toga's team, and Endeavor's hospital team coming up against Dabi's unit, and the other teams like Deku or Kirishima's coming up against Twice's team or the support unit. We don't really know how the battle is going to break out so far beyond how it already has at the hospital, so we have to wait for more chapters to drop. But you know, I'll be here wondering when we'll see those new villains in action, and just how the heroes are going to put up a fight against the massive Liberation Front's power. Either way, these are the teams, how I think they'll come into contact, and what I think they can do, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. I'm working on my War Arc Part 3 theory, and you definitely want to keep an eye out for that one, because I'm bringing forth a radical theory on how I think All Might will finally die. Let's talk about that soon. This is Pineapple. I love you guys. Peace.